If I told you this talk was about a relationship, you'd probably expect something dramatic. Maybe someone who cheated on you for your best friend, maybe someone who showed you up at prom. But the relationship I want to talk to you about today isn't with a person, it's with perfectionism. And like most bad relationships, it didn't start badly. It started convincingly. Perfectionism showed up as high standards, as drive, as just wanting to do well. Teachers praised it, parents trusted it, and society rewarded it, which is exactly why it took me so long to realize that it was quietly ruining my life. In fact, 85% of 16 to 25-year-olds identified with having perfectionistic traits in a survey conducted in 2022, meaning that most of you will probably relate to something that I have to say today. Now, before you break up with anything, you justify staying. So let's do what we should have done a long time ago, and if you know me, this is one of my favorite things to do, a pros and cons list. Pros of perfectionism. It makes you work hard, it helps you achieve, it looks impressive, and it gets results. Psychologist Dr. Thomas Curran, who studied perfectionism at the London School of Economics, found that perfectionism is strongly associated with external rewards such as grades, flattery, and prizes, which explains why it feels productive. But here's the problem. Perfectionism doesn't ask, did you grow, but rather, did you impress? And that leads us to the cons. Cons of perfectionism. Nothing is ever finished, only temporarily acceptable. Mistakes feel personal, rest feels undeserved, and success brings relief, not joy. Curran's research also shows that as perfectionism has increased over the last 30 years, so have rates of anxiety, depression, and burnout amongst young people. In fact, individuals in high-achieving environments show 7 times higher rates of anxiety and depression than the national average. So, statistically speaking, this relationship isn't motivating us. It's exhausting us. Here's where perfectionism lies to us. It tells you, I'm pushing you to be better, but neurologically, that's not what's happening. Research from York University found that perfectionism is linked to higher fear of failure, which activates your brain's threat response, not its learning system. This just means that when we're scared of messing up, the brain prioritizes survival over creativity. And what happens in survival mode? Burnout. Burnout is what happens when effort is high, but fulfillment is low. A 2018 study published in Personality and Social Psychology Review found that perfectionistic concerns, not workload, were one of the strongest predictors of burnout. Meaning it's not that we're doing too much, it's that we're demanding ourselves to be flawless while denying ourselves recovery. Burnout looks like still achieving, but not passionate, still functioning, but disconnected, and still succeeding, but deeply tired, which raises an important question. If perfectionism is the reason why some of us are quietly miserable, then why do so many of us keep on returning back to perfectionism like a toxic ex? This mindset doesn't appear randomly. We train it. In schools, we learn early on that mistakes lose us points, speed matters, and grades summarize intelligence. Comparison is constant. Educational psychologist Dr. Carol Dweck found that students in performance-based systems where results matter more than learning are less likely to take risks and more likely to avoid challenges. Some countries noticed this damage and redesigned education. In Finland, standardized testing is minimal, homework is limited, and competition between students is actually discouraged. Sounds pretty good, right? But what about the results? Lower student stress, higher student engagement, and consistently strong academic outcomes. Turns out that when learning isn't driven by the fear of being wrong, the brain learns more. Now imagine we gave these students access to a phone and social media. Social media didn't create perfectionism, but it made it mainstream. Why? Because online, we don't compare effort, we compare outcomes. Everyone looks productive, everyone looks successful, and everyone looks emotionally stable. And you're left there feeling the need to be better and better and better. Have better grades, be more tanned, have more money. It's like consumerism, but the orders that we're placing are from ourselves. Social media doesn't show reality, but rather edited excellence. And we then have to deal with our perfectionism that treats that as the new standard. For women, perfectionism comes with additional instructions. Be successful, but effortless. Be confident, but not too confident that it looks like you're full of yourself. And be flawless, but never admit trying. The concept perfection bias has been highly studied, and it states that women essentially have to be perfect to be evaluated as equals to their male counterparts in the workplace. But for women, this toxic relationship didn't actually start in the workplace, but rather during teenage years where young girls experience twice as much perfectionism as boys. Now for me, for as long as I can remember, I've always been a perfectionist. And at first, it did help me. I was able to quickly improve at art because every time that I did art, I wouldn't stop until I thought that it was good enough. I would spend hours rehearsing my lines for school plays until they were perfect. When I joined secondary school, I applied for an art scholarship program. 720 applicants, 24, including me, got in. This gave me the opportunity to receive private tutoring every week after school, and I was able to have access to materials that I wouldn't be able to use otherwise. However, as time went on, I was quickly told that I couldn't do certain drawing styles, and every piece that I handed in was graded. So I stopped painting or drawing spontaneously because every time that I did art, it felt like I was being measured against perfection. And every time that I would improve my technique, it felt like the bar was always getting higher and higher and higher, somehow always just out of reach. This was the first time that I noticed I was being controlled in this relationship. But then I wondered to myself, if I want to be at the top of my game, then don't I need perfectionism by my side to support me? Not exactly. Elite athletes don't chase perfection. They chase refinement. 5 times Olympic medalist Lil Marchand has spoken about shifting from striving for an unachievable technical perfection to embracing a more holistic approach focused on enjoying the process, managing his emotions, and continuous improvement. He often repeats the word fun to himself before a race to stay relaxed. And he understood that perfectionism tightens muscles and increases fit, whereas letting go improves reaction time and makes performance more consistent. So maybe the solution isn't about abandoning the standards, it's changing where they come from. Keep the challenge, lose the pressure. Because here's the question that finally ended the relationship for me. If this were a person, would I let them treat me this way? You wouldn't stay with someone who constantly criticizes you, ties love to performance, and makes rest feel like weakness. So why accept that voice from yourself? Now, I hate to admit this, but I sometimes let that voice speak to me. For example, I found it hard to be here today and to deliver my speech because I still didn't think that it was good enough. So yes, maybe breaking up with perfectionism is harder than it seems, but you just got to ditch it and move on. Because the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one that either sets you free or quietly holds you back. Thank you.